All right, ladies and gentlemen, Shannon Confair is about to come on. I believe this is her second appearance, maybe more. Also, Shannon, I hear the Facebook. Yeah, you got it. You got it. I see you. Awesome. So Shannon Confair is about to come on and absolutely rock the house. I believe this is her second appearance, and we're going to be diving into this visibility, this bold visibility, really getting your message out into the world. And before that, let's talk about the sponsor message. If you are committed to dialing in your purpose, your presence, really being here and in every moment, the here and now, and getting out your message to the world in a big way, really being a purpose-driven entrepreneur and succeeding in that, I love working with you if you are out to empower the world. If you are committed to being comfortable, if you want to stay where you are, if you want to just do this as a hobby, you are not for me. But hey, if you want to really make a big impact in the world, send me a message. Would love to talk to you about our coaching programs and the different masterminds that we're running right now to help you grow and get your message out to the world in a big way. Chris@beergps.com, or message me on Facebook or whatever social media platform you prefer. Next is the iTunes review of the week, and this week it's by S. Perrant. I'm going to put this up on the screen. S. Perrant says, I appreciate everything that is expressed and conveyed when I listen to Becoming Your Greatest Possible Self with Chris Burns. It helps me go a step forward towards greater success and a path of enlightenment. Thank you so much, S. Perrant. If you want to give us a review, go to beergps.com/iTunes, or search Becoming Your Greatest Possible Self on the iTunes store. Let us know what you love, what you want to see more of, how we can make the show even better for you and for future generations to come. Thank you so much in advance for doing that. Now, I'm going to introduce Shannon in a minute here. Before that, grab a piece of paper, grab a pen, be ready to take notes, because she's going to tell you how to absolutely grow your visibility, especially when you just want to hide, when you just want to like curl up in a ball and be comfortable and sip hot cocoa on the couch and be by a fire. That stuff's all good. And we do that with the other hand of living your purpose. Shannon's going to dive into that in just a second. So make sure you stay through all the way till the end of the interview, because you never know what one idea can transform the rest of your life. So let's introduce her, and then we'll bring her on the screen. Miss Shannon Confair has been a successful entrepreneur for 13 years and now helps other entrepreneurs build powerful personal brands so they can show up online as the experts and leaders that they are. Together, they work through her signature process to gain clarity in brand messaging, create a visibility plan, and capture photos to tell the story of that brand. She's been fortunate enough to work with some of the top online influencers in the online marketing industry in destinations all over the globe. In addition to her full-time business, she is co-producing and directing a documentary. Oh my goodness, that is awesome. We're going to ask her about that. She's a mom to 3 kiddos and loves to find time for new adventures. That is my kind of conversation. Oh my goodness. Shannon, are you ready to rock the house, girl?
I'm so excited.
Oh my gosh, you're so excited. We are now live on Becoming Your Greatest Possible Self. Thank you for coming back here to share more wisdom. I know last time that we were talking about photography, we were talking about branding, you were doing live events, and I'm sure so much has grown since that moment. So I'm excited to hear about it, hear about what's new and exciting with the documentary and everything that's going on in your world. Thank you for being here, Shannon.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Chris. I'm stoked. I can't wait to share what, new and exciting things have been happening.
I love it. I love it. So we're going to dive right into the theme of the day, which is right up your alley, which is master your message. Shannon, what does that mean to you? Master your message. How does that show up for you in your life?
I love this. It's huge. It's what I preach. It's what I try to live. So, to me, when I hear that, it's like we all have this story. We all have this purpose. And I think that in order to master your message and what you're meant to put out into the world, you really need to gain clarity into those things.
Yeah.
And to live a life on purpose. So it's asking those deeper questions, what is my purpose? What is my message? Who do I need to serve? And then getting that out into the world.
Yeah, I love it. So it's like the clarity through questions is such an important part of mastering that message. And we all have a voice. We all have something to say. And especially all the entrepreneurs and visionaries and people who are tuning into this, they want to impact the world in big ways. And if you're not able to communicate that effectively through your brand, through your speaking, through your communication and content, then you're going to be missing the mark. You're just going to be more noise in the world. And you got to have that clarity.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So tell us a little bit more about who you are, Shannon, for people who are just getting to know you and introduced to you. Tell us about what you stand for and what your clients come to you for.
Yeah, so I'm a photographer.
Yeah.
That's what I've been doing for 13 years. But beyond that, I've realized I am incredibly passionate about helping other people find their voice and to
Mm,
be visible in big ways, both off and on the camera.
mm,
And so I feel like that's my purpose, is to walk people through this process to facilitate the transformation that needs to take place
mhm.
and to be there as a cheerleader and give them courage to really put themselves out there.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So simple. You got this down. You've done this before. I can feel it. I can feel it. So we're gonna dive back into the journey, and you get to share about how did you get to this point? How did you get to the photography? How did you get to empowering people to share their message out into the world? Tell us about that. Where did it all begin for you?
Yeah, so I kind of always knew I wanted to be a photographer.
Mm.
It was always at the top of my list. When I was younger, I thought I wanted to work for National Geographic because I just wanted to travel to really cool places and take pictures.
Yes.
And I get to do that now. It looks a little bit different than what I thought it might. But I honestly I found I don't like taking pictures of animals or plants because it's too boring for me. I need to so where I landed is awesome. But through the years, I started as a wedding and portrait photographer. And to make a very long story short, I had to learn how to brand myself in a big way and in a unique way because, as you know, like photographers are like a dime a dozen nowadays. There's so many of us out there, and you need to do more than just have beautiful work to differentiate yourself.
Mm.
And I learned for myself that was really, and this happened in my wedding career, I was really niching down, getting super clear on my ideal bride, not just weddings, but like what kind of weddings did I want to work? What made me different? How could I share my story in a way that would resonate with these brides? And when I learned how to do all of that, I doubled my business in a year.
Wow.
And really, the rest is history. It brought me to where I am now because once I learned how to do that, I wanted to help other people do that same thing. And eventually, truthfully, got burned out from doing weddings all the time, and decided I wanted more. I needed more meaning. I needed to see myself helping other people through growth and transformation. And when I first started in brand photography, I honestly didn't even realize that's what I was going to be doing. I thought I was going to be giving people awesome pictures, giving them just tips on how to build their brand and business. And what I realized is I'm helping them see themselves in an entirely new light. And when they can do this, they show up differently in the world. They show up differently in their everyday lives. They show up differently online in a much bigger, bolder way.
It's like you change how they feel about themselves and how they show up in the world, which completely transforms their impact and their ability to serve people and live an amazing life, getting paid to do what they're amazing at and what they're good at and their genius and what's their voice, what's their message. And you really help people to go from, feeling like they're unseen, unheard, unloved, right? Not really fulfilled, and transform them into being able to make that big impact.
Yeah, that is absolutely my goal. I mean, I truly believe we all have like a purpose in this life. And if I can help somebody find theirs and, blast that out into the world, like, please let me do it.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So, getting into the brand, like building a brand, tell us a little bit more about like the foundation of that. You mentioned the questions are super important to get clarity on who we are and what do we stand for. Tell us a little bit more about that beginning process of really being able to nail down our brand and who we are.
Absolutely. So over the years, I've created my own system that I take people through. I call it the 3 C's, and it's personal clarity, client clarity, and business clarity. And personal clarity always comes first because I like to take a holistic approach. It's not just business because our business and our lives are not two separate things. It's all intertwined. It's all one. And so I want to know, what do you want your entire life to look like? And how does your business fit into this? And how does your message fit into this? And what is your story that we need to convey to the world? So we get really clear on those things. The other super important piece of this is having a very clear why statement. I'm sure a lot of people have heard this before, but you need to have a compelling reason as to why you're doing what you're doing. Because there's going to be days where you don't want to do it. There's going to be days where you don't want to show up. And your reason why behind what you're doing has to be bigger than those excuses to not show up or the fears that pop up.
Yeah.
So that's the personal piece of it.
Yeah. How do people know when they're truly connected to their why? Is there like a test that they can do?
For me, I guess it's just you feel it's a feeling. It's your intuition. It's like it's what lights you up, right? If something isn't lighting you up, it's not your why. It's not your reason. Not to say that there aren't days where like, it's just work to do what we do, right? Like there is the business side of things. But when you come back to, I'm doing this because like for me, like I value freedom. I value the freedom to live the life I want, to provide for my family the things I want to be able to give in a big way and to be able to help others find that same thing for themselves. Like that's my driving force behind what I do. And, honestly, like, I don't want to work in a 9-to-5. Like that alone is enough to like drive me forward on those days when I don't want to. So yeah, I think it's just like, if it lights you up and it excites you, then you know that you're on purpose and on target.
Yeah. I've heard the phrase, if your why doesn't make you cry, it's not deep. It's not deep enough, So it's
Love
like,
it.
can you bring yourself to tears with your purpose and your why and your mission? And I think that for a lot of us, it comes from the pain that we experienced. Like I know I felt like I didn't have a message at the beginning of my journey, growing through high school and college. I felt like I didn't matter. And that's why I love helping people to get their message out there in the world too. And it's awesome. Podcasting is such a really cool medium because like you can be with people wherever they're at. And when you help people get that visibility, that's something that is super powerful too. So I want to go back to the client clarity and the business clarity. Let's dive into those.
Yeah, so client clarity is getting really clear on who you best serve. People call it your ideal clients, your ideal client avatar. I like to take the approach of what do you have to offer that these people most need? Like who are the people that need what you're offering in the way you're offering it? Some people get hung up on this. I know like when I first heard of this concept, I was like, oh, but I don't want to turn away business, when I first heard of niching down or, working with one type of person. And I just want to assure people like that doesn't really happen. Like for myself, for example, I still get requests for different kinds of portrait sessions. So like I might have someone say, hey, can you do senior photos? And heck, if there's room in my schedule, sure, why not? I love doing senior photos, right? Yeah. But that's not who I'm marketing to. Like you'll never see that online or in anything that I do. But I enjoy doing it, so I take it when I can.
Yeah.
So you don't limit yourself. What you're doing is you're really honing in on your messaging. You're learning how to speak to these clients or potential clients. You're learning how to address their needs in the best way possible. So that way you're giving them an incredible experience.
Yeah. And it's like the being able to stand so powerfully in that message and being specific, being laser focused, has you be confident, has you be bold, so that the other people who may be on the periphery may not be the perfect client, but they can still value and use your services. Then those people will come to you too, because there's just like a magnetism about you being you and living your purpose and sharing your message.
Yeah. And I mean, I will say for me with where my business has grown exponentially over the past couple of years. And had I not niched down and picked out, a target client, like these are the people who I really want to work with, who I can most help, I wouldn't be traveling all over the place, working with people. Like I wouldn't be booking clients who are coming to me from all over the globe now. Because like I do one thing and I try to do it really well. Now, when somebody's looking for a branding photographer, a brand strategy, like I'm being tagged by people that sometimes I don't even know. So it's an awesome experience when you really learn to niche down and to work with a specific type of person or a specific, set of problems that multiple people face. You step up as the expert in that field.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's being consistent with that message too. I think a lot of people like try to figure out their message. I know that was a challenge for me. I was like, okay, I'm a generalist. Okay, I'm gonna niche down to this. Okay, I'm trying it. Oh, but I want to switch to this. Okay, I'm trying it. Oh, I want to switch. There was like a lot of jumping around. So I think it's really important if you choose something to stick with it long enough to see the benefits of that momentum, right?
Yeah, and honestly, like when you're just starting out, sometimes you do have to cast the net wide.
Yeah.
Instead of like, you can't always niche down right away because you just don't know.
Right.
So I also think there's phases of growth in business where we might transition. We might, do something a little different. Like
Mm.
I've always been a photographer, but it's looked different, and so I had to find my path through various ways. So we all have to find our path and find that niche. But like once you do, like I don't want people to be afraid to do that. And I also want people to know that can change over time, and that's okay. Like our brands and our businesses are constantly evolving.
Yeah, they are. So let's talk about the business clarity now. How do we get that? What do we need to know?
Yeah, so with business clarity, I like to look at things like, what are your brand values? What kind of experience are you delivering to your clients? What services are you delivering? And this is all part of building like the foundation of your brand, because your pricing, your services, how you package things up, the experiences, they all say something about who you are to the world. And that's part of how you leave your mark, right? Which is what your brand is. It's how you leave your mark on the world. So that's all part of the business clarity. It's also, I like to have my clients look at other businesses that they admire. For me, like I looked at like Apple, for example. I love Apple.
Yeah. Yes.
I love their customer service. I love their sleek design. So I looked at that and I thought, well, how can I infuse some of the awesomeness about Apple into my own business? It's not about copycatting. It's about being inspired by what they're doing and what they're doing well, and then emulating that in your own unique way.
Yeah, I love that. And that's it's so funny because I think we're all figuring out our own voice, but then we can also draw this inspiration from those around us. And it's the dance of how do I admire that and integrate the parts that I like and not just try to be them, like I still get to be myself and own my own voice and message, but not try to be like this other company or podcaster or, influencer or whatever it might be. Like we really get to own our own voice and do things our own way.
Yeah. I mean, copycatting literally defeats the purpose of building a brand.
Yeah.
I learned semi early on in my photography career from a well-seasoned photographer. I went to a workshop of his, and he said something that has stuck with me ever since. And he said, when everyone else zigs, you zag.
Yes.
So like if you see people in your field doing this, like come over here and just do something entirely different, or do it in your own unique way.
Yeah, I love it. And we had Atika in the audience said, what's the difference between clarity and being an expert? So I think that's a little bit of two different topics, like the clarity and being an expert. But just in your own opinion, Shannon, what is the difference between those? How do they relate?
Yeah, so you should have clarity on what you're an expert in.
Yes.
So having clarity is just having that clear vision, right? And it's a knowing. It's a knowing of yourself. It's a knowing of all of those topics, and being able to state that and being able to understand that. Being an expert is different than clarity. Being an expert is like, I'm good at what I do. I have experience. Like I know I can serve people well. I'm owning this and I'm being the expert in this.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I love it. So that is about the branding. And I love how you said the 3 C's: personal clarity, client clarity, business clarity. Without those, then something's going to be missing, and it's going to be like not fulfilling. It's not going to work. You're not going to have the clients, whatever the case might be. Like if you don't have those in place, then like you're not going to be as successful as possible. So Shannon, I love those. And anyone who wants to work with you on those 3 C's, I'm sure that they can message you. We're going to tell them about how they can continue the journey with you at the end of the interview, of course, as well. But I love that. And as far as the being bold and being someone who like really stands out and really having that visibility, even when we might not feel like it, I want to dive into that and talk about like where did that being able to serve people with that kind of a mindset or a problem, or I just want to curl up in a ball, I just want to play small, like how did that come out of your messaging and serving those people especially?
Well, they say like you teach what you most have to learn. And so I will say like visibility, even though I am visible a lot now, it's hard for me to want to be visible. Like and I'm an extrovert, like there's nothing to do with that, but there's a big piece of me that just wants to, like you said, like go curl up on my couch with like in a comfy blanket and sip my tea and watch my shows and not, it's vulnerable to be visible. Right. And so it's not always super comfortable. But I think the turning point for me was when I realized how many people that I was helping by being visible, and that being visible allows me to serve my purpose in life.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, it's not about you, it's like you're doing it because it fulfills you and you gotta take care of yourself first. You gotta have that self-care. And like once you've discovered your purpose in your message, then it's your responsibility to show up in life in a way that makes a difference, that serves that, and not be selfish with that gift to the point where people don't get to benefit from it.
No, and that's exactly how I try to flip it for my clients, because a lot of people, I remember when I was transitioning into the online marketing space, I had this aversion to it for myself. I loved helping my clients do it. But for me, I felt like, oof, I don't want to be like this big name online. Like, I don't want to be put on this pedestal that I am putting other people on.
Right.
That was terrifying to me, because I'm like, gosh, if people put me up there, like, what if I fail? Like, and then all these other things, started going through my mind. So I would hide behind my clients' photos. I have the fortunate or unfortunate ability that I was able to do that. Like, I'm just putting their pictures out there, and then I didn't have to be super visible at first. But I wasn't really impacting lives by doing that and playing small.
Yeah.
And I realized quickly as I worked with more and more people that we're all just humans, like trying to make it in this world and trying to make a difference. And there is no pedestal. We're all the same. We all have the same struggles. They just look a little bit different.
What would you say changed for you from being behind the camera and capturing other people's greatness to putting yourself in front of the spotlight more, so to speak?
I think that my reason why became compelling enough. I mean, a huge turning point for me was a couple of years ago, multiple years ago. I spoke at this conference, and then I didn't think it was anything, spectacular. Like, I gave a good presentation, but I didn't think it was like earth shattering or life changing information. It was about branding and branding yourself. And a year later, I was sitting at this cafe, and I had a woman come up to me, and she kind of did a double take. She's like, Shannon. And I'm like, hi, and she said, I just want you to know I was in your presentation last year, and like, it really changed my life. And I was just taken back. I wasn't expecting that. And it made, like, that whole experience, we had a conversation. It just made me realize that when we show up, we have the power to change lives. We have the power to make a positive impact. And that's incredibly important to me at the end of the day. And again, like, my other reasons for why are the lifestyle that I desire to create is the desire for that, and the desire to help others is far greater than my desire to stay hidden.
So what, in terms of visibility, what do we need to do to really be visible? Obviously, it's to put ourselves in more uncomfortable situations in the spotlight, but what does that really look like practically?
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess practically, as far as, building a personal brand and getting it visible to the world, it's showing up online, period. It's showing up and offline. I also run a locally based business. I'm not just an online marketer. And so right before this interview, I hosted a lunch, and other people came, and I led discussion. It was great. Right. But I had to show up to do that, and I had to be visible to promote it. So really being visible is all about showing up.
Beautiful. So showing up online, showing up offline, that's like, show up means create opportunities for people to engage with you, to hear your voice, to benefit from your leadership, whether that's live events, like small meetup groups, whether that's creating content online, blog posts, videos, whatever, audio, podcast, YouTube channel, there's Instagram, there's so many different ways that we can show up. How do people know what's the best way for them to show up?
My gut instinct when you just asked me that was, what feels good, but it doesn't always feel good. So let me think on that a little bit, because I think that, I guess when you're just starting out, do what comes easiest, right? Like, don't over critique or think it has to be perfect. Just get out there, put something out. It can be short, like some of my favorite things to do are like 2-minute tidbits on Facebook Live.
Yeah.
I'm up, I'm there, I give a quick tip, an actionable, step to take away, and that's it. Yeah. And people love that. Or, maybe you're not a video person. Maybe like that is going to be a huge block for you. You need to work with a coach to work through that. So type up a Facebook post. You don't have to be talking on camera. Perhaps, you're feeling lonely in the online space. Maybe you're not making a lot of connections. Get out locally and go to networking meetings. I will tell you that there are 2 things that have led to the success of my career. It's having a solid brand and brand strategy and all the things that go into that. And then it's networking and building relationships.
Yeah.
Because the brunt of my business has been word of mouth and referral. Like I didn't even have a website until 2017 for my branding business. And even now I don't really send people there very often. Everything I do is building relationships.
Yeah. Yeah. So what tells more about that, the power of building relationships and being visible? How do we mix those two together?
Yeah, well, they kind of go hand in hand because you have to be visible to build relationships, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So again, it's just find some like-minded people, some high vibe, positive, entrepreneurial people, or whoever, show up where your target clients are going to be. So maybe you're not working with entrepreneurs. Let's say you're like me from before and you're in the wedding industry, right? Show up where your brides are going to be. Show up where the other wedding vendors are hanging out. Build your community around those people. And that's one way to be visible in person. And again, if you're more online, just take those principles and bring them online. Like I am constantly trying to engage in conversation with people I don't know. Just inviting them, to conversation about, hey, I would love to know more about what you're up to. These aren't sales calls. I'm not pitching myself. I'm just building my network and building relationships and having more people that I can refer clients and others to.
Yeah. What have you found works for you and your clients to take something from just being visible into an actual sale and generating profit?
So when you have a really clear message and it's out there consistently, people who need what you have to offer are going to be curious about it.
Yeah.
So when I'm meeting with new people, and because I work with, businesses or entrepreneurs, we always talk about our businesses, right?
Yeah.
And then they end up asking me questions. And most of the time I end up like, I can help you with that. So what I like to do, because I don't like there to be pressure around it, I might not even mention like, oh, this is what I'm offering right now in that initial conversation, unless they specifically ask. I will follow it up with a message later saying like, it was really nice meeting with you. I just want to throw this out there. I think I could really help you with some of those issues we were talking about today. If you're up for a conversation about it, that's great. Let me know. If not, no hard feelings, like looking forward to hanging out again regardless. Yeah. So I take the pressure off because the sales come naturally, really, when you're clear on your messaging, on what you offer and who you work with, and you're showing up so they can find you and get to know who you are.
That's beautiful. And I think it's like we're in this age where it's more about the relationship, and if you just show up as someone who's there and you care about people without an agenda, right? Like that, my intention for this call is to learn about you and hear about your challenges and find out like, how I can serve you. It's like, that's good. And there's an energy. I think people can feel that, it's like, it's so like people are doing it all the time. And so to hear someone who just cares and wants to connect, I think that's super important. And it's important to be proud of what you do and the service that you're able to offer people. It's a dance. It's totally like a dance to be able to just show up and love people and then as well be proud of what you have to offer.
Yeah. And, part of being visible is sharing your offers with the world. Like there's a time and place for each. I love, the classic 80-20 rule, like put out 80% like valuable content, story driven content, just fun information, whatever it is. And then 20% of the time, like ask for the sale. Don't be afraid to ask for the sale because that's how you're going to help people.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of times what people are afraid of is they're going to be annoying. People are going to get sick of seeing them in the news feed or whatever it is. And that's just 9 times out of 10 not true. I mean, if you're just spamming people, sure, like people are going to but if you're showing up and being authentic and delivering valuable content and then sometimes asking for the sale, number one, most people aren't going to see your post all the time. And number two, even if they do, it's like, I forget what the statistic is, but people have to see you multiple times usually before they even consider like working with you.
Yeah, and it's like the people who aren't interested in the content and the value that you're delivering to the world, great. They're not your client. They're not the person who's meant to be in your inner circle anyways, if they unfollow you, unfriend you, good, like let them, be the person who boldly adds value to the world. And I think that's don't care about what people think. Be in tune with your own message and know that if you help one person, direct the content to one person, make it fucking hit home for one person and make that difference for them, then like that's why we show up in business. Like go change someone's life with one piece of content.
Yeah. And I just had this conversation yesterday with somebody. She was asking me, well, how have you met people? Like, how have you built, a business that most of it's not in my local area? And one of the things that I said was when I go to events, I try to connect with one person on a deep level.
Yeah.
My goal is not to go get every business card in the room or to meet, 50 new people. I want to meet one person I connect really well with. And that one relationship can expose me to 100 new relationships, right? It is that ripple effect.
Yeah. And that's the point of it, is like when you're visible as your greatest possible self, really being in your gifts, being in your best energy. And when you do that and you have a great conversation with someone, they enjoy it. And when someone enjoys being with you, they want to give back. It's like, hey, I really like Shannon. We had a great conversation. It was an amazing time. She had tons of value. It was just a great conversation. I'm happy to help. I'm happy to, share her if she's looking for this certain type of person, refer a couple people to her because she showed up amazing with me. And it's like, be that person who's just like has that intention to go deep rather than to get as many as possible.
Yeah. And just a side note on this, I know it's not necessarily on visibility, but don't be afraid to ask for the referral. Like yes. I've had people, other business owners or entrepreneurial friends send me a text and say, hey, like, can you connect me with anyone that that could use my services? And like, I'm excited to do that. I love to do that.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to ask for that.
Yeah. And I think a good practice as well is to be thinking about, if you value a relationship with someone, who could I refer this person to? Yeah. It's like, how can I help others be visible? If you want to be visible, how can you help others be visible? Like have that energy of abundance and generosity, and it'll totally come back around too.
Yeah, something I love to do is leave unexpected reviews on Facebook, like on my own personal page.
Wow.
If I've experienced a great service or product from somebody, they're not expecting it, I give them a shout out and I link to their page. I tell people to go check them out, tell about my experience. And people really value that and appreciate it. And I do it without, I don't expect anything to come back from that except just, spreading some good vibes and love into the world.
I love it. I love it. Who's a friend of ours who does that really well is Rob Garcia.
Yes,
Robert Garcia is constantly shouting people out and just like acknowledging people, and he's amazing. And it's just like when you're giving, you totally get it back. Everyone loves you and they want to support and help however they can. And one of the other things I want to talk about with your visibility is this documentary that you're doing. What opened up that can of worms?
Oh, so now we're gonna get personal. So full transparency, this is still hard for me to talk about, but I'm going to talk about it because it needs to be out there. So I was in an emotionally abusive marriage for about 15 years. And through all those years, I was building my business. I was still functioning. But I felt I was living two lives. I had my life on the outside and then I had my life on the inside. And it was really dark. It was really difficult to get through. But the documentary is about me feeling trapped in that relationship for many reasons. One of them being because of my faith. I felt like I couldn't leave due to counseling I received for many years, and just so many things. Like when you're in this abusive relationship, so much happens that you believe like, oh, maybe I can't leave. It's scary. It's terrifying. To step out and to be financially independent. And I have 3 kids. And so this documentary is about my journey through all of this and about other women's journeys. And my goal with it is to spread the message that, number one, emotional abuse is abuse. Like, let's blow up this notion that like it's a gray area. That's what I heard a lot. Well, emotional abuse is a gray area. It's hard to say if it's abuse. And I call bullshit on that. Like, I am sorry. There's got to be a way to know. And I didn't know I was in an abusive relationship for a long time. And even once I did realize it, it took me years to finally leave for that final time. So I want women to understand what it is. I want other people to understand what it is. I want the faith community to understand that they're enabling men, and women to a lesser extent, but they're really enabling men to continue to be abusive because these men know like this. and this isn't all faith communities, this isn't all churches or pastors, but as a whole, like they feel like, well, the church has my back, you know? And that's how I felt it was in my situation. I felt like I was in the wrong for wanting to get out of this. And yeah, it kept me stuck to a point where it was a dangerous situation for me.
Wow.
And so I want to educate faith leaders who are counseling people, this is not okay. And I want women to know you can get out, and it is okay to get out, and you don't deserve to be treated this way.
Yeah, it's like the societal pressure of, what you should do because it's the quote unquote right thing. It's like, you don't know what I'm going through. Like, nobody deserves to go through this emotional abuse or, being like suffering. If there's no willingness for both parties, so to speak, to come together and create resolution, then it's not going to work. And I think that's one of the challenges of our, just in general, the marriage system. It's like there's this commitment till death do us part, and it's like, well, if the other person is not coming to the table and giving everything that they've got to create something that works for both of us, then it doesn't work. That's not emotionally healthy. We didn't come to this life to make a promise and keep it just because we said we would. We came to this life to have an amazing experience, a fulfilling life, live our purpose, and be empowered to do that and be healthy in the process.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this whole situation has changed my perspective on a lot of things. And yeah, I'm hoping that through this film, like, it'll help other people, but talk about visibility issues.
Yeah.
I have wanted to cancel this multiple times.
Wow.
Because it is terrifying for me to be so vulnerable and to share my story. But, the few times that I've shared it, like even just little pieces of it, I can see the impact it's made on others. And so it is like, I don't have a choice. I do not, like, I truly believe I do not have a choice but to put this out there. And there may be consequences for me that are not great. I may have to deal with some major crap because of it, but I don't care. Because again, my reason for putting it out there is far greater than any fear I have around it. And even within my story, I know something that creates a huge impact for people. And I've never voiced this online, I don't think. But being in that situation for so many years, like, brought me to the point of being suicidal. And I think that's something too, that's not the focus of the film, but it's a piece of it. And people need to hear that, because looking at me, people would have never known. And I wasn't going to give that indication, and people don't. So being visible matters, especially when you can be raw and real and honest about what you've gone through. And sometimes you need to process it first. You might not always be able to put out like these big things like I am. It's taken me a while to get there, but it matters. It's important.
Yeah. And I think the big thing is showing other women that they're not alone, right? That's like one of the most empowering things that gives hope, is that knowing that the suffering, the trauma, the difficulty, the abuse, whatever it might be, it's like, if I know that there's other people who have gotten through this somehow, it gives me faith. It shows me that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, rather than feeling hopeless and, having to deal and grapple with these thoughts of, suicide, or like I'm unworthy, or, trash, whatever it might be, like, right? Like whatever I might feel that just is a lower quality of life. It's not what we were put here to experience. And so I really acknowledge you for putting this together and making it happen, Shannon. It's gonna be a beacon of light for a lot of women and people in general. I can feel it.
Yeah, I hope so, and if anybody is hearing this today, and is struggling with this topic and you feel trapped, I mean, I just want to say, it isn't all sunshine and flowers on the other side. Like, I still struggle with things, and it was hard to get through that. And, one of the things I'm realizing, the abuse doesn't stop because you leave the relationship, but you don't have to be in it every day. Like, I did not realize how bad it was until I wasn't in it. And it's like such a weight was lifted off of my chest. And here I am thriving. Like, one of the things I was always told is, oh, you won't be able to have a business. Like, how do you think you're going to do that? Look at me now.
Wow.
I'm doing better than ever. It's growing every year. I'm serving more people at a bigger capacity. So I had to get rid of that dead weight. Yeah. And I had to step out on my own and take that leap of faith. And it was scary as hell. Yeah. But I wouldn't change a thing.
I love this. My girlfriend, she had some relationships that were, abusive, and she had some relationships with herself that like totally put herself down, and she's creating this event called Meant for More, right? Because like even if things look good on the outside and what other people see, it's like, oh, it's like Shannon's happy, my girlfriend's happy. Like deep down inside, if you're miserable, like if on the inside it doesn't feel good, then that's not okay. It's not
Hmm.
acceptable to live that kind of life. So she's doing an event to inspire women. So I love this, like women stepping up to share their voice, to share what they stand for, to create a better world that's more loving, that's more full of joy, that is more empowering for everyone.
Yeah, we all need to share a voice. We
Yeah.
were given that for a reason. So don't waste it away.
Mm-mm, don't do it. Don't do it. Okay, so Shannon, visibility is a core part of what you do. Tell us a little bit more about how your clients can, really benefit working with you, and share a little bit more about the experience of working with Shannon.
Yeah. So, one of the things I know is doing it alone is really hard,
Mm,
right? When you're trying to put yourself out there in a big way and you're uncomfortable doing it, it's good to have that cheerleader behind you saying, like,
mm,
"You can do this. This is who you truly are. Like, don't listen to those voices in your head."
mm,
But before we even get to all of that, it's the clarity piece. I think that is key to all of this. It's
mm,
really being clear on that vision, who you are, who you serve, how you serve them.
mm.
Clarity gives you confidence, and when you have confidence, you're more likely and more able to be out there and be visible.
Yeah, 100%. And in terms of the documentary, I want to circle back around to that because I think that's a big part of what you stand for, and I'm curious, how does that relate to your business and this, being a brand expert and helping people be visible in that aspect? How do you see those linking together?
I love that you just asked this because I can't wait to come on here in a year from now and like see
Yes.
where I'm at because you
Yes.
taught me in like this transition, right?
Yeah.
So I am literally figuring that out right now. What I do know is who like my story and what I've gone through greatly impacts how I work with people, how I view the world, and how I try to help other people.
Mhm.
Because I know what it's like to feel like you don't have someone that has your back. I know what it's like to like be constantly told you're not good enough, you're not worthy, you're this, you're that, and then to try to show up and build a business, it's this cognitive dissonance. It's like really hard to overcome.
Mhm.
So I envision, I envision the documentary really just becoming a part of my personal brand. Like this is my story. I'm really starting to own it and to talk about it a little more at a time, and I'm doing it incrementally because again, like it's scary. I'm not
Mhm.
gonna lie, it's uncomfortable to talk about. Part of me wants to just sweep it under the rug, don't look back, pretend it didn't happen. But again, like I know I'm counting on this impacting hundreds of thousands of people and changing lives. And even if it only helps one woman
Mhm.
get out of an abusive situation or one person to better understand what emotional abuse is and take a stand against it, like it's okay. It's worth it. It's worth it to do it. So I am figuring out right now the story of how I fit the documentary
Mhm.
and my business all under my personal brand.
Mhm.
And what I always tell people is like your personal brand is the umbrella under which everything else falls. So like here's the documentary, here's my business. It's all related because it's all my personal brand.
Mm. Yeah, it's gotta be fun, like working on your own brand and how does everything fit together, Like you're
Yeah.
doing this for other people and your clients, and it's like, okay, now I get to do it for myself.
Yeah. And I need help. Like I go to other people to help me because I think we all need that outside influence and
The
that outside
mirror,
vision.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, yeah, absolutely. I love that, and that's really like the power of hiring someone, a team, someone. So it's not alone. You don't feel alone, and it's like people can experience the power of team in so many different ways. Whether it's a documentary saying, "Hey, I'm not alone," and there's people out there who have my back. It could be support groups, Facebook groups. It could be just watching someone's content online, or it could be having a coach, like a one-on-one coach, or doing a group program or a mastermind. There's so many ways to get that support. And if you're listening right now and you don't feel like you're supported, you feel like you're alone, go get that freaking support. Have a conversation with Shannon. Ask for that clarity, and she'll be able to help you get there, to get that clarity so that you can stand in your power. You really
Yeah.
own your power, own your boldness, own your confidence, and get your message out to the world in a big way.
Yeah. And I mean, and that's huge. Like building your support network is one of the first things you should be doing.
Yeah.
You know, as you're building your business, as you're building your brand, build your support network at the same time.
Yep.
And learn who to cut out. And maybe you don't have to cut people out completely out of your lives, but like you cut them out of like your business talks, because people will bring you down real quick. And make sure you surround yourself with people who believe in you, who, you know, that's what the lunch that I hosted today, it's called Unforgettable Entrepreneurs. I have a group called Unforgettable Entrepreneurs. It's this movement I'm trying to create, and it's all about building a support network. It's almost like, you know, the one woman today said, it's almost like an AA meeting for entrepreneurs. Like, we talk about our problems, we talk about our wins. It's amazing. Like, we got in a really deep conversation, but the burden is on you to create that, to find that. Like, I'm creating it for myself and for my peers that are coming. You know, my Facebook group that I've created, I want other people coming in there for support, but that's like my safe space too, you know, where I can go and I can post things that maybe I'm not going to post on my personal page or on my business page for the world to see, but I've created this safe space for me to post more of what's on my heart. And so you don't have, like, it's not going to just fall into your lap. Like, you have to be willing to go out there and make it happen.
Yeah. And I love how you said, like, it's not just going to fall in your lap, and be responsible for the tools and the resources that you have at the tips of your fingers, whether it's through, you know, Googling online, asking in different Facebook groups. I mean, there's a Facebook group for anything, you know, any kind of topic, any kind of community that you want to surround yourself with, whether it's like men's groups or women's groups or business groups, marketing, branding groups. There's always going to be the community to support you in whatever your biggest block is. And that's the power of our internet today. And it's incredible. So I really love that. So Shan, go ahead.
I was going to say, I just want to point out, like, you know, when we're talking about visibility and doing all these big things, like, I am from central Pennsylvania. So, like, small town USA. And I just want to say that because, like, if I can do it here, like, anybody can do it. This, like, being visible and building a business is accessible to anybody who's willing to put in what it takes.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love how you are being the leader of it too. Like, if you can't find it, quote unquote, create it. And I think it's always best to find someone who you resonate with, and if you can, join them. But if you don't find exactly what you need, maybe in your location, in your proximity, exactly the way you want it done, then create it yourself. You know, be the leader. Even if it's uncomfortable, even if you have no idea what the heck you're doing, throw your hat over the wall and figure it out, because that's what life is all about. That's how you grow. That's how you expand your capacity to be the messenger, to deliver that message, to live your purpose.
Yeah, and show up authentically. You know, you don't have to have it all together. Like, when I'm showing up and leading meetings and I'm leading groups that I've created, I'm completely honest and transparent with people. Like, I struggle too. You know, like, I struggle to come onto this show today. I struggle to show up today for the lunch. Like, I struggle. We all do, but show up and be authentic about it, because that's what resonates with people. They don't expect perfection. They want realness.
Yeah. Yeah. That's powerful. And I think it's a fun dance between, like, being bold and just, like, going for it, and then, like, being authentic and being real, and kind of, you know, like, managing, hey, when do I want to be high energy, certain, confident, and just go for it, on fire? And then when do I want to be like, hey, I'm gonna bring you in a little bit. Let's do a fireside chat and, like, just connect, you know?
Yeah. And it's about, like, what does bold look like for you? So it might not, like, bold might not be loud and I don't want to say obnoxious, but bold might not be loud and in your face for some people, right? Like, it can be bold to stand up in a group of 5 people and share your story in a quiet setting, right? So boldness is all about, like, what does that mean for you? And figuring that out and then going for it. Like, going for it is the bold part. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, if you could ask yourself at the beginning of every day, what would it look like to be bold today? You know, for me, not everyone's going to have the same answer. Some people, it might be like, make 20 sales calls. Some people, it might be make one sales call. Right? That's bold.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It might be like, I'm going to go on Facebook Live for the first time, even though I hate being on camera, like, whatever it is. Figure that out and just go for it, because that's how you're going to build this thing. That's how you're going to get to where you want to go.
Yeah, I love it. I wanted to ask about, in terms of you being behind the camera, what benefits, assets, or like abilities did you get from being behind the camera and like seeing people from that aspect and capturing them that you now have more awareness of when you're going in the spotlight and on camera and creating that content?
Oh, I love that question. Oh my gosh. I have learned that the world sees us differently than we see ourselves
Mm,
most of the time.
mm,
When we look at ourselves, we tend to pick ourselves apart, right? We tend, like, I know when I've gone in front of a camera, I've gotten a lot better at it because I've forced myself to do it a lot. But I'd feel self-conscious, like I'd want to cover, like I'd want to hide, right? Like it's a vulnerable position to be in. When you get in front of a crowd, again, like same thing. But what we think about ourselves is not how the world sees us. Like they see us in our best light. They see us how we're truly meant to be seen. So I've learned from being behind the camera and hearing what my clients say. Sometimes, like if they're like, "Oh, like I'm fat here," like like I need to lose weight, or I don't like this angle, and I'm like, "But that's beautiful. Like,
yeah.
let me show you how beautiful that is.
Mm,
Like let me show you like how other people see you, and then like seeing them light up and like, oh, wow, like I didn't know that's how other people saw me, and
mm.
I think that's one of the most powerful things about the photos I give people is they do see themselves differently and they realize like this is who I am, not who all those voices in my head say that I
Yeah, that's so powerful. I love it. I love it, Shannon. So, if there's any final pieces of advice about being bold and increasing the visibility, not the invisibility, we want to
am. Yeah.
decrease invisibility, we want to increase visibility. What would those be that we want to give to our audience?
I think number one, know your why. Write
Mm,
it out every day. When I'm working with coaching clients, it's often one of the things I have them do. Write it out every day,
that's good.
period.
Mm,
At least for a period of time until you have it so ingrained in you
mm,
that you don't even have to you don't have to write it out necessarily every day anymore. Like
yeah,
I find myself when I'm shrinking back, like I'll start writing it out again and really thinking about it and focusing.
mm,
So know your why, be really clear, have clarity, have a consistent message,
mm,
know who you're meant to reach. And sometimes that does take time to figure out. So don't be afraid of that process,
mhm,
but definitely be striving for it.
mhm.
Um, you've heard the phrase like jack of all trades, master of none. It's out
Yeah,
there for a reason. Show up as an expert in what you do,
yeah.
and naturally people are going to come to you for
Mm,
whatever it is you're offering. And lastly, I think just the world needs you. Like
mm,
don't underestimate who you are or what you bring to the table. It's not about you. It's not about, yeah, you have to build your name, you have to build your brand, but that is so you can serve people.
yeah.
So if you are others minded and you keep that at the forefront, it's going to help you in showing up in a big way.
Mm, that's powerful. I love that last one because I think a lot of people say they need to get to somewhere before they're able to go out and serve, and typically the conversation is the most powerful way to open up that door of serving. To say, hey, who do you know? Or once you're in a conversation with someone who can benefit from your services, say, I can serve you. I have some ideas that could really make a difference. Do you want to hear more about it? And then they say either yes or no. If they say yes, then that's just the process. It's like the game, so to speak, of life. Who's open and willing to hear and receive the value that I have to deliver? Not everyone's a yes.
Mhm.
Some will, some won't. So what? Someone's waiting. You know.
Yeah, and be okay with no. I mean,
Mm,
I truly believe, and I have to remind myself of this. Don't get me wrong. Like, there's days where I worry about sales. I worry about
yeah.
the practical things too. But I truly believe if I'm showing up and I'm playing my part, I'm going to work with the people I'm meant to work with.
Mm, yeah, absolutely. So, Shannon, this is awesome. Our audience is loving it. They want to be more bold. They want to be more visible. How can they do that with you? What are the next steps that they can take with you?
Yeah, so I do have a Facebook group. It's free. It's called Unforgettable Entrepreneurs. I would love for people to come in and join the conversation there. Again, I try to make it the safe space where you can, we talk about business, we talk about things, but we talk about personal things too. So
Mhm.
come in, join the conversation. Connect with me on Facebook. Send me a friend request and Instagram. I love Instagram. I have an account where I post my professional pictures. That's just Shannon Confair. And then I have a behind the scenes account to get to know me more on a personal level, and that's Shannon Confair BTS.
Awesome. Amazing. Shannon, you are an incredible woman, a powerhouse. I'm so excited for that documentary. Keep me posted how I can support you with making it a success, because I'm sure it's going to be awesome and impact so many women's lives. It's going to be a lighthouse, it's going to be a beacon to remind them that they're not alone. And women and men, it's not just going to impact women, it's going to impact men too, to really be aware of how they might be showing up that might not be serving themselves or the people around them. So I really acknowledge you for what you're doing, your courage, your bravery, your boldness, and just being so visible. And keep going, girl. You're doing awesome.
Thanks, Chris. I appreciate your support.
Awesome. I'll see you soon, okay?
All right. Take care.